Hey guys, Spidey Geo 9 here. I hope you're having a marvelous day. I'm here with my bud, the card boss, Pangming, right? That's it.
Yes, that's right. What's up?
Yes.
What's up, guys?
All right. So this is a first. So the card boss have been putting out videos for almost a year now, dropping his knowledge, sharing his wealth of his cards. But this is the first time we see your face.
Yeah. It's new for me. So I've been always talking behind the camera with my phone on my desk right here. So just excited to do this one. People have been asking for quite a fair bit now, so I thought maybe this was kind of like a good time to, hit up a chat with Spidey Jew over here.
Awesome. You've been like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and here you are. We who's the man behind the curtain? Well, that's
Yeah,
Peng Ming.
that,
It's the card boss right there.
that's
I'm
right.
truly I'm truly honored to have you here and to be able to see your face. You got a good face, by the way.
Come on.
Love it, love it. Well, so why don't you introduce yourself and tell us kind of how you became the card boss and talk to us about how you got into Marvel cards.
Right, right. All good. So I'm like many people, right? So I started cards when I was like 12, and my very first cards were the 1992 Jim Lee X-Men, and I talk about it a lot on my
Yeah,
channel, right? So I love those cards, and of course back then I didn't have any of those autographs, which I adore today, right? So I
right.
was just one of those who collect those base sets. And I had Marvel cards for a couple of years. I think I went to Series 3, Marvel MU, I believe that was the time.
Hmm.
And shortly after that, you go into sports. NBA was my thing, sports cards a couple of years. And it was back in 1998. It's when I started Magic the Gathering TCG. So I picked up
Mm,
the game, played it well, to well enough that I was playing professionally for a
wow,
while.
wow.
Yeah. So it took like a good part of 20 years of my life involved in Magic. So
So,
in
question: is there still love for Magic?
I love the game, but it's one of those things that you gotta keep up regularly. So
Hmm.
when you kind of like semi-retired like myself, you kind of lose track on a lot of things because the game keeps on evolving
Got you.
every single year. So you come back and then you realize that, hey, the landscape has all changed, the rules has changed a bit. The cards look different, that kind of things. But in that 20 years, I did quite a fair bit. So besides playing, I played professionally. I traveled around the world with my friends to play competition. Then I represented the country, 3 times in a row. So that was
Wow,
awesome.
that
Yeah,
is
that was
awesome.
cool. And I opened my own LGS for a few years.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I had an LGS just to try out the LGS experience for 3 years. It was tough work actually.
Yeah.
People kind of like get sucked up in the glam factor of owning an LGS, right?
Hmm.
But it's so much work. It's like, between I had a full-time job,
Hmm.
and I still spent like 2 to 3 hours a day in the LGS just doing admin stuff,
And just to
right?
make sure the audience understands, an LGS is similar to an local comic book
Card
shop
store.
here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's
Mhm.
it's, it's basically it's called the local game shop, or in this case, the card shop in a sense.
Yeah, and we
So,
use LCS, local comic store
mm,
shop.
correct.
Mhm.
So, because it was Magic, right? So it's a game. So it's a game shop,
Yeah.
and then I had to be there every weekend,
Mm.
to run events and stuff like that. So it was a lot of work for that 3 years, but it was a good experience. And then I kind of like said, okay, it's fine. It's just taking too much of my life, and I got a lot of learnings from dealing with distributors and stuff like that. So it was a good learning process for me. And I played on Magic until 2019, just before the pandemic hit, and
Gotcha.
that's when I got back into sports for a fair bit.
It was a good
And
time to get back into sports, right?
yeah, yeah, that was just if I were to look back, I kind of got in a bit 6 months late before the boom
Okay.
started. Yeah, of course I managed to catch some of that high waves. Some of the news that you guys probably heard. Where the sports really peaked in between 2020 to 2021. So I
Hmm.
was I was in that wave, in the mix. With a lot of people, which was good. Okay, and when come to last year, early 2021, I was looking for something else to do, and the first thing that naturally caught my mind was to look into comics,
Yeah.
right? So I was looking at comics, what what was good. I was doing a lot of research. I enjoy research, so I enjoy reading about the history of comics. What's familiarizing myself with things like Silver Age, Golden
Yeah.
Age.
Yeah.
Things were all pretty new to me, right? That time, So what do you invest? What kind of books do you invest in? So, and at the time, I believe it was Into the Spider-Verse, back in late 2020. I can't remember. Okay,
I actually think Into the Spider-Verse was late 2019.
2019. Okay,
Mhm.
so I think I was looking at uh, Ultimate Fallout 4 at the
Yeah,
time.
great book.
Okay, great book, right? So, and I believe at that point in time, in January 2021, it was going for about $1,000
Hmm.
a book, and I was seriously thinking of investing like a lot into it.
Right.
And
Talking about
before I
9.8, right? CGC
9.8,
9.8.
9.8, first edition.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of going to the books pretty heavy, but before I could do anything, the price spiked up,
Yeah, it
like
did.
literally doubled. All right.
Doubled.
And
Yeah.
I think it doubled. And I said, okay, scrap that. Let me go back to the things I'm familiar with, which is cards.
Yeah.
And that's when I bumped into 1990 MU, like a lot of people during that time. And
Hmm.
that kind of got the ball rolling on Marvel cards. So never looked back ever since.
Yeah. So this is January, February of 2021, right? So we're at a
Yeah,
year,
that's right.
12
Yeah,
months. Now
so
you're
it's about a year.
so that's about the time you got into Marvel cards. When did you start producing YouTube content?
My first video was actually in May last year.
Hmm.
So I never really I used to write a blog on my own, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like just to document down my story, and I kind of like see, this YouTube thing is quite interesting. Let me just give it a go. So as any normal YouTube creator, we start out really awkward. I
Yeah.
produced my first Marvel 1990 Marvel MU video. I still giggle to myself, watching back that particular video. But I get good comment from a bunch of people saying that it's a good video, all right? It
Yeah.
has a lot of statistics, data analysis,
Hmm.
but it just tickles me sometimes watching back my first video.
You have a good voice for it too.
Oh, right, thanks.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like that's one of the things I think that just jumped right out to me when it's YouTube's interesting, like what it puts in front of you, and I remember it putting your video in front of me, and watching it. I'm pretty sure. I say I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking that it was a Kobe video that I watched first.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but either way. Or you were talking about PSA having your cards and delaying them. That's what it was, and
Yeah,
you were doing
yep,
the amount of loss that you incurred simply
right,
due to the delay. But
correct.
it was your voice that really kind of I was like, man, he's got a good voice for YouTube.
Never occurred to me, but I just do me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And so from there, you're still doing some sports, but heavy into
Uh,
Marvel in May.
I would say at some point last year, I would say maybe around middle of the year, I was still
Mhm.
kind of like 50-50. But right now I'm like 95-5 for Marvel.
Right.
So really bullish on Marvel because it's just a huge untapped market,
Yeah.
and strictly from the investment point of view, right? So I know collectors have a lot of things going on for them,
Hmm.
but from the investment side, there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of places. Even like for myself, I'm still learning, right?
Hmm.
I'm still
Hmm.
learning on a lot of bunch of things, learning from you guys on the different sets. Like I had, prior to listening to you guys on your podcast, I had, to be honest, very little appreciation for masterpieces
Yeah.
because to me, uh, Marvel was all about comic arts, right? So
Sure.
something that's
Absolutely.
stay true to comics. So masterpieces to me, I know it's an interpretation from an artist point of view,
Hmm.
but it just didn't resonate to me as much back then
Hmm.
compared to how it does to me today.
Yeah. No. So now that you're taking a look at Marvel masterpieces, because I actually really like being in this conversation, is it is it the art that's drawing you in, or is it the structure of the set that's drawing you in?
I think it's art, the
Hmm.
art. So I don't look. I mean, to be fair, I
Hmm.
don't enjoy all the years of masterpieces. There
Hmm.
are specific years which I'm kind of interested in, which I
Yeah.
think that there is going to be future interest. So it's not all, and it's not just limited to the inserts. So I'm also looking at the base and the parallels as well.
Hmm.
So Though there are some which I'm just touching on. I'm not 100% sure yet. Of course, it depends on how the market will look at this, but I believe that might be the next evolution of Marvel collecting for most
I,
people.
so what has you believing that it would be the next evolution? And let me tell you what I heard, and you tell me if it's what you said. You're talking about the people that are coming into the hobby knew what they're looking for and looking at right now is primarily PMGs, right? You think that eventually that's going to spill right into Marvel masterpieces. So
Yeah.
what has you saying that?
I think a lot of people is going to be like me, right? So coming from sports, again, strictly from investment, right? Not collectors, right?
Sure.
So they're going to come in, look at PMGs because that's the easiest, and then go into the next one, maybe jambalayas, and then
Mhm.
after that, look at what the other content creators are saying, the vibraniums, the
Yeah.
royal foils, right? So once everybody's tapped into all of this and familiarize themselves with what Marvel is, all right,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll start to go in a level deeper, right, and to look at appreciation for true art, so the sketches, the
Mm-hmm.
masterpieces. So and that's when they really need to find a balance between what is eye appeal to them
Mm-hmm.
and what could be eye appeal to the masses. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be tricky. So that's something I'm learning as well, because in the past, right, we look at a sketch, for example, right, no disrespect to anybody who collects sketches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at a sketch, I love this sketch, and you think that everybody loves that sketch, but it doesn't really work that way, right?
No, it
So
doesn't.
if
Mm.
yeah, so if you were to invest in these kind of stuff, all right, with the intention to sell,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be really sure, like, this is the one that's gonna
Yeah.
create a lot of buzz. So that
It's
that
funny you
takes a
say
lot of
that.
you.
I had my twin brother who I collected with as a kid, who was in that very first Marvel card video. He kept his distance. As I jumped in the Marvel cards, he kept his distance, and then in the last month, he's jumped all in. Okay,
Hmm.
and like he was looking at a very expensive sketch, and I'm not going to say what it was and who it was because I don't want to harm anybody in any way, but it was a very expensive sketch, like $1,000.
Hmm.
And I told him, I was like, look, no, there's no, like, not yet, not now. You're building your collection. But if you are going to look at sketches, you really have to start with the artist first.
Right.
And from a value standpoint, I'm going to tell you, if a Joe Jusko pack pulled sketch comes across me, I will sell this.
Ooh.
Yeah. But it's Joe Jusko,
Right.
right? The guy
Right.
who, if I had to
Masterpieces.
guess, the masterpieces sets that you like are likely Joe Jusko's, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and so, but that's artist driven, and so, but there's just you just have to be careful with if you're looking at sketches to some degree from an investment standpoint.
Yeah. Most definitely. Right. So it's
Mhm.
pretty tricky. If I were to scale land on the level of difficulty, that would probably rank the highest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yes. So sketches is interesting because I love them and I have them and well, I mean, I brought a couple here because I thought this might come up, but this one, that's a sketch.
Yeah. I saw that one. Yeah.
Um, this Spider-Man is Michael Jordan, and very thankful to have that sketch. Right. So huge supporter of sketches. I just think that they bring a lot of confusion to new people coming into the hobby from a collector and investor standpoint, and
Yep.
there's a lot of education needed, and there's really not a definitive thing. It's not there's not a consensus
Correct.
quite like there is on some of the other inserts and so forth. But I do want to talk more about sketches in the future and do some education because for me it was a barrier of like complete entry into the hobby because I would go to these sites like these group pages and they would be talking about sketches and I just didn't understand it. Didn't understand how do they get them? Why is there only one? Like what I just didn't, why are they collecting this and that way and whatever and
Right.
what makes it valuable and why are some paying an amazing amount of money and then some are like $50. Like I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the issues that some of these newer investors are coming in. So they're looking at simple things like comps, right? So sketches is something that there is no comp, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a one-on-one, right? So if
Right.
it didn't get transacted in the last 3 months, you wouldn't see it, right?
Hmm.
So So most investors would kind of shy away from that and look at something that that there is a certain number of quantity that's available, like the PMGs, and something that's a lot of reference points that they could use to make those buying decisions. So where sketch is tough, right? There is
It is.
it's already scarce, and there's the markets for it is already quite tight.
It is, and I don't think we can do this here in this particular conversation, but I will say there are sketches that are here, and then there are sketches that are at the top of what is collectible and investment, and that's
Right.
much deeper dive conversation in the future. But make sure
Right.
if you're buying sketches that you love it, and that's why you're buying it, unless you've really done your homework.
Yep. Agree.
So in Marvel cards in May, well, start making YouTube videos in May. Now about 95.5 of Marvel cards versus sports.
Yep.
Are you okay? Are you open with sharing like what it is that you're hunting, what you're looking for?
Well, I think I've been quite transparent in my last couple of videos, right? So I mean, PMGs are hot now. I had a pursuit of a PMG blue set, which I
Yeah.
think I shared with you a couple of times, right? 2013 PMG blue. The hunts stopped because of these crazy prices, and it was a punctuation mark when that 132K Spider-Man went on auction.
Yeah.
So it's tough. So but the value is still there, but I don't think that even though I know that a lot of people are chasing PMGs and there
Mhm.
is good market
Yeah.
for it, because I know that people are still coming in looking for PMGs. But
Mhm.
I know, to me, I like to look what's the next best thing. So I talked about vibraniums previously. I've
Mhm.
gone into vibraniums, but again, I've stopped going to vibraniums because the prices have now gone ballistic
Yeah, they
on
have.
some of
I
the
mean,
some of the
even I don't have a
pieces.
lot of vibraniums. I mean,
Yeah.
goodness gracious, you can't hardly even find them.
Yeah,
So,
you can't. I mean, you can, but the prices are a bit
mhm.
nuts, right?
Right.
So the one thing that I've touched on, as in I've gone in, which I've not revealed to anybody, is
Mhm.
I'm looking at 2013 retro inserts
Mhm.
as a set,
Yeah.
right? So I think that those stuff like hardware TIs, those might have some sort of demand, and not individual cards,
No,
right?
you're talking
It
about the
has to
set.
be, it has as a set, right? So
It's a great play for a number of reasons, and you tell me if you're thinking the same way. But number one, the sets are not overly big, the individual sets. So I mean, some are like 9 to 18 cards, right?
yep, yep,
Um, the even though they're not all numbered, very few of them are numbered at all. Or none of them are numbered. Now that I think about it,
none, it's
none
none,
are numbered.
it's none. Yep,
The pack odds are pretty clear,
yep,
and they're not great. They're not like 1 in 12 packs. I mean, we're talking about 1 in 72 and so
yep,
forth and so on. Um, there's crossover potential from sports,
yes,
and they're going to have low pop from a
yes,
grade standpoint.
definitely. But I guess low pop from a grade standpoint, it's understandable because nobody's sending from grading. So I'm gonna share like TI, right?
Hmm.
So TI is pretty low pop on PSA. I think that's only like 11 cards graded in total,
Right.
right?
Total.
And I think that the print count, based on somebody did some math on Facebook, and it's like 100 to maybe 150 copies of each.
Hmm.
So essentially, it almost has a invisible serial numbering, like a PMG in a sense, if it's out of 100, right? So,
Yeah.
and the lineup, like TI specifically, right? If you look at the lineup of the
Right.
characters, right, it's an awesome lineup, right?
Yeah.
It,
I'm telling you, I'm going to, you know, we talk about our wins, right? But I know one day I'm going to have this huge L. And I was offered every 2013 insert in what appears to be pretty pristine condition, as much as you can judge a raw card through photos and videos, minus the jambalayas and PMGs. So every insert, including all autos for all
oh,
sets,
okay.
for 15,000, and I passed because at the time it was a premium. But I've begun to do the math of what I think those sets, graded sets, should sell for as sets, and it was not wise to pass on it.
Was this in the last 1 year, or is that earlier
This
than
is
that?
this in the last 60 days.
Oh, 60 days.
Hmm.
Okay, but I mean, $15,000 is a lot of money, right? There's a lot of things that can be done with
Oh,
$15,000.
right. There's a reason why I said no, but the
Yeah,
problem is you start thinking through the effort of trying to just get all those sets all together, including the autos,
yep,
at once. And time there's a time value of money
yep,
aspect, and you have it, not maybe not first, but not many have it, right?
yep,
And then you can strategically decide how you want to release the sets
right,
from
definitely,
you see what I'm saying? And so
yeah.
you start thinking through all that. I know that's a little more complex, but yeah, I think that there was a potential really cool play there. That again, the 15 scared me, but I think one day I'm gonna look back and go,
And I think it goes a lot to the mindset as well. Like, I'm sharing from my experience. Like,
mm-hmm,
let's just say back in your situation, right? So you had an opportunity to buy a lot of cars for $15,000. You did the math, right? And you figure out that, look, it's probably worth it in terms of value, but it
mm-hmm,
may not be worthwhile in terms of time, right? How much
yeah,
time you need to put into, to grade, to resell, and all those kind of things, right? So, and you look at a number, $15,000 is a big sum, right? And
mm-hmm,
and you pass. But the funny thing is, a lot of people in your situation would end up saying, okay, I'm just going to pick up the pieces that I want. I go to eBay or ComC, buy this, put together a set myself, and like maybe do it for cheaper and enjoy the process along the way. And you find out that you don't get there. Some of them, they don't get there, and they end up paying more money at the end of the day.
right.
So it kind of like just hits them back. Oh, should I pay that
Should have paid it
15K?
because it's
Yeah,
always those last one or two cards, right?
yeah, it's
That
tough.
you end up paying
And
quite a
and I
bit
can tell
for.
you, for Marvel, the really difficult thing about Marvel is, to be honest,
Mhm.
Spider-Man. So
Yeah,
Spider-Man is the big roadblock to a lot of sets, right?
yeah.
So
I have, I
without the
have some.
Spider-Man, it's tough.
I have someone reaching out right now for a Spider-Man card that's in Marvel Masterpieces, and my name's Spidey G09. Like, it's really hard to let go of a Spidey without receiving something that allows me to get other Spideys, right?
Right. Agree.
And I mean, Spidey is to me, as you heard me say, the Michael Jordan of Marvel cards.
Yeah.
Um, he's the top. And
Yes.
speaking of that, if I may, we've got some news here that was given to me from ComC. So for those who don't know, ComC is checkoutmycollection.com, COMC. ComC allows you to, have your cards, there for you to put up for auction, to sell on their site from consignment standpoint, but you also can buy. And that's typically what I'm doing is buying on ComC. I don't know. Do you buy on ComC?
Yeah, I do. I do. I do. It's a great place to buy because there you get to lump up all your purchases into one shipping order. So that saves a lot on shipping.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And then the cool thing for me is maybe I see a card that has a lot of value in it. Like I see a lot of potential in the future. I don't have to ship it. I can kind of hide it there. And when I'm ready to
Yes.
put it up for sale, and net that profit. So it's really cool. Well, I've been in conversation with ComC and talking to them about Marvel cards, and they gave me some data yesterday. And this is only a portion of it. I'll do a video where I go in a little bit deeper dive. But I really, since I have the card boss on the channel here, I wanted to talk about this. Currently, Spider-Man is outselling all other players and characters on ComC by volume of dollars, and is currently outsold Michael Jordan by 28%. And
Wow.
I mean the gravity of that. I mean, you and I, because we've been in Marvel cards now for a year basically, and we've been living and
Mm,
breathing it daily. We
mm,
might go, well, I can see that, but to the average person, or maybe to the sports card collector, this has got to be mind blowing because he's not only topping Michael Jordan. We're talking about this week topping Joe Burrow, Tom Brady,
mm.
Aaron Rodgers, uh, John Morant, like all of
Yeah.
them. Is Spider-Man's number one at the top in volume of dollars? How much money is going into this character right now?
Yeah, it's insane, right? So I guess from my take on ComC itself, so for sports cards, naturally people always try to go to eBay,
Mhm.
and then they put some of their remaining stuff in COM-C. But for Spider-Man to really knock everybody off the table, coming out from, I would say, the last 1 year, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would, if we look at this data a year ago, perhaps Spider-Man may not even crack the top 10, for example, right?
Yeah.
So for him to come out number one right at the top, it's insane, right?
Well, and for me, perspective. The perspective is Spider-Man's top of mind from a global brand, but Marvel
Mm,
Cards is still in its incubation stage of awareness.
yep,
It's beginning to spread. The hobby is definitely growing. I can tell you just from my DMs on Instagram that the hobby's growing. The amount of people that are reaching out, the amount of people are watching your channel, and but it's not a mass. There's not mass appeal yet at all.
yep,
Um, and the way I describe this is I can go to Walmart today, go to the checkout line, and I can buy a sports card. I can buy a Magic card. I can buy a Yu-Gi-Oh and a Pokemon,
yep.
but I cannot buy a Marvel card.
Mm,
And so until that happens, I don't think we're going to have the market awareness that the cards deserve. But I can't even imagine where this hobby is going to go once that happens.
yeah, I think right now from the people that I talk to, right? So I'm referring to sports guys that's coming in. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of interest coming in, right? As in, looking at Marvel, and the good thing about Marvel, it's not new, right? As in, the
Mm-hmm.
cards are not new. They've been around for 30 years, so there's a lot of different sets and cards for them to look at. There's It's just so many things to look at one time. So everybody's just scrambling, watching YouTube to find out which one's the best, what they should
Mm-hmm.
collect, what they should invest in, and some of them, take the time and pinpoint exactly what they want, but some
Mm-hmm.
just go sporadic, right? They just put
Right.
the money in many places, and then just, okay, let's say Spider-Man's Jordan, so let me buy every single Spider-Man I see for the
Yeah.
right price. That may or may not be the right thing to do, but that's what some people are doing.
No, it's definitely happening.
Yep,
You mentioned earlier, you said the blue sold for 132,000. Well, we're
yep,
talking about Steve Aoki. He's publicly posted that
yep.
he purchased and acquired that card, and we're not talking about someone who just happens to have money and buys cards. We're talking about someone
Mm,
who understands collectible as a whole.
yep,
I mean, that's kind of his thing, and
yep,
he's looked at Marvel cards and said, "Hey, there's a ton of upside to this, and whatever that means for him,
yep.
maybe it's dollars, maybe it's something else, but still he sees the upside to the point that he broke a record, right? 132,000 for a out of 50, out of
Right,
49 blue PMG, not a green, not an out of 10,
right.
not a one of one, but an
Yep,
out of 50.
yep. And the thing about Marvel is, the characters. I mean, you compare, to sports, right? Like, let's say, like Michael Jordan, the amount of times that the characters refresh, whether is it
Mhm.
through a movie, or a new book, or whatever it may be, right? So the amount of times it gets refreshed over time is just consistent, right? You will see, let's say, for example, a Spider-Man movie every 3 years, or
Mhm.
your peers in Avengers movie, whatever. But for players like, let's say, like Jordan, he's great, all time great, and
Mhm.
he's retired, obviously.
Yeah.
And he had a big refresh in 2020 with the Last Dance
Beautiful
documentary.
timing, beautiful timing.
Yes, beautiful timing. Okay, but how many times would that happen, right? How many times will he be refreshed again? So when I mean by refresh, means that there will be a sudden surge in popularity for his stuff.
Right.
Consistently there will be interest for sure because he's Jordan,
He's
but
Jordan.
for
Yeah.
yeah, but for Spider-Man, right, there's always a lot of opportunities to refresh,
It's the
the interest.
and not to compare Michael Jordan to Elvis Presley, but
Yep,
I mean, I think I can go to a garage sale and get quite a few Elvis Presley memorabilia, right?
yep,
Because there's no refresh really.
right,
There might
right,
be, maybe they do a movie and it's amazing. I don't know,
right.
but um, but to your point, now that these properties are being pretty well directed through
Mm,
through Disney, they understand the cycle that these characters have to keep the longevity and the popularity up,
yep,
and we see that Mickey Mouse is still the third most valuable property in the world, and it's
yep,
been around since the 1930s, if I remember correctly.
yep.
and so they know how to have this longevity of a character. And Spider-Man's beloved, and he's beloved because he's in a mask. So we
Yep.
all, if we want, we can see ourselves in him, in her, even like Spider
Yeah.
Gwen is just an absolutely amazing character, and many other
Right.
ones. And it just has a lot more staying power in my opinion.
Definitely. But even I mean, I want to say the good and the bad, right? So
Yeah,
even though I
please.
agree that it's a lot of staying power, but there's a lot of predictability in for these characters, right? So
Hmm.
I mean, some people would just assume that, oh, the next movie is coming out in 2023.
Hmm.
Okay, so let me buy up some stuff now, and I'm going to sell it in 2023 when the price spikes, right? So
Hmm.
a lot of predictability factor. Uh, yes, it may come to fruition, okay, but if everybody thinks the same way, then it's difficult. So when it comes to 2023,
Hmm.
and then everybody's looking to sell, and that's when you see the price starts to come down, and people
Yeah.
start asking what's going on. It's like the movie's out. It's like why is prices
Right.
coming down? So it works both ways, right? So it has to be a consistent demand all the way, rather than
Mhm.
you have a spike now because of a movie announcement. So that's the tricky thing about investing in these kind
Mhm.
of properties, whereby there is that predictability factor involved.
Well, I was talking to a friend, and he brought up something really interesting, and it was about comic books and the long term value that comic books has grown. Right?
Yeah,
It For whatever reason, there are ebbs and flows, obviously,
yeah,
but the floors are really solid, and the
yeah.
floors continue to inch up throughout the
Yes,
years.
yes,
And so if you think that Marvel cards might have a similar trajectory because of the property that it is, and then you add the fact that there's absolute rarity with some of these cards,
yes.
it it helps, even though what you're talking about, like if somebody's going to dump, well, they can only dump so many of some of these special cards because there's not many of them at all.
Correct, correct. And that's
Hmm.
and that's why people are very bullish on PMGs,
Hmm.
right? So even if today they might feel that they're paying some ridiculous prices, so they're thinking further ahead, because if they're telling themselves, look, this card that I'm paying, let's say $5,000 today,
Hmm.
might worth 15 in 2 years, right?
Yeah.
But in worst case scenario, if it goes up, to 8K and then come back down a bit and then go up again and come down, I wouldn't be too far out of money with my 5K investment. I think
Right.
that's what a lot of people believe in with PMGs, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
Hmm.
But whether is it worthwhile paying that money 5,000 for a PMG today versus a lot of other Marvel cards that's out there that's a lot of potential? That's a question mark.
Yeah, that's interesting because
Yep.
what we don't know is how the market's going to mature,
Yep.
and I've been using that word, and it aligns for me, and what I mean by that is, um, early last year, as a content creator, I was catching some flack, like, hey, why are you talking about these cards? And it's our thing, we
Yep.
don't want everybody to know about it, and
Right.
mess up the hobby.
Right.
But even with that being the case, you're you look at all these people coming in, they're deciding what they want to invest and collect in. And you and I don't get to decide what that is.
Correct.
And we don't know what the overall mass appeal is ultimately going to be for these cards. And it might be Marvel masterpieces because of the beautiful art and this all
Right.
hard numbered.
Right.
It may not just be PMGs only. PMGs is the leap that people are making is shorter of a distance because they're familiar with it, right?
Right.
But once they get familiar with all these cards in general, it may be something else, and we didn't see it coming.
Yeah, for sure, right? So I had a video that I did about what is the best color for PMG to invest in between red, green, and blue.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was pretty simple video, right? So I was just trying to explain my train of thought on why I think the
Hmm.
blue is the best, particularly because it was kind of like in between,
Hmm.
not too rare like the green and not too many in like the
Right.
red. It's as simple as that. But I had a lot of people just commenting, not commenting, like DM me and telling me, saying that no, I think that green is the best because it's absolute rare and people are going to pay a lot of money for it. And I said, yeah, that's true, but try finding a green today. It's not easy, right? and you get the reverse of the red. It's saying, oh, red's the best because it's super liquid. Everybody will willing to buy red if it's up for sale. Say, yeah, that's true, but will you get the same amount of return that you're expecting, right? So yeah, so that's a bit tricky. And just one funny example, I'm not going to say names, right? So the Dark Phoenix 2015 PMG red,
I
I'm
saw
not sure
that.
if you caught on that story, right? So I think one sold yesterday for 1,400,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken, on eBay,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not sure whether it's the same guy or it's a different guy. So when it was getting a lot of flack for posting a very high price after one comp that just sold for $450 just a week prior, and now it's 1,400. So to me, this market is just I can't make sense of it, right? So some people say, yeah, sure, here, take my money, but some people it's like, what?
Yeah, no, I get asked all the time, what do you think this is worth? I go, there's no one
don't
that
know.
can keep up with it right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen a multiplier, and now it's not universal.
Yep.
I'll share it with you. What I've seen is, and let me speak specifically in sets. I'm talking about 2017 and 2013, and the reason I'm doing that is there appears to be a lot of value in the 2015 set right now. Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Especially in the blues.
Yep.
Other than some of the top characters, those are going comparably to the 17 and the 13. They're going too cheap.
Yes.
They can't explain it. It's the reality. But in the 2017 and in to some degree the 2013, there actually hasn't been enough sales to really publicly, anyways, to really validate this. But of a top character in good condition, the blue tends to sell for double what the red. So 1,000 sells for 2. And the green, similar condition, same character, is a 5x. 2,000 times 5 is 10. And that's the multiplier that I've been seeing pretty repeatedly with variance. Obviously, it's not a perfect multiplier, but for people who are just trying to keep up with where things are at, if they see a blue sale and this, and they know it's paid and it's legit, they have the same card as a green. You can basically multiply that by 5 and decide, if you're in the ballpark of where it probably should sell.
That's correct, because if you look at the serial number, the ratio is there. So blues are 50 and the greens are 10. So it's 5x.
5x.
So a lot of people do this simple I would say multiply, but there is a little complexity, based on my experience, especially if you're talking between blue to green. Okay, because I think that a lot of greens, when it goes up on auction, right, once it gets snapped up, it's going to disappear for a long time. It's going to disappear. Yeah. So
blue becomes the new green in the fact that it's available.
Yes. And also the green that's next to come up. So I'm just gonna throw out a character, right? For example, let's say Surfer, right? Surfer green, right? So if a Surfer green goes on sale, so if Surfer green goes on sale for X price, okay, whatever the price is, and let's say it's based on the multiplier you talk about, 5x of the last blue, okay. I believe that the next Surfer that comes up on sale, green, will not be 5, and it will be like 8x or something like that, because it's one less out of the population. So it's not divided by 10, it's going to be divided by 9. Something along those lines. You get what I mean?
I do.
It's because that's the case, and that's going to put off a lot of people in terms of a chase, right? So that's why blues are kind of like a nice sweet spot. Price is still affordable. There is enough quantity to go around so that price don't go crazy like the greens, if what I notice.
Yeah.
So there is demand, and to me, the number one rule of investing is know your customers, right? Know how to exit, right?
Yeah.
Don't buy something which you believe that there is the Steve Aokis of the world that comes knocking on your door to say, hey, let me give you $100,000 and give me your card. It doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
So have to think about the broader market in a way. So you have to pick the space that has the bigger, wider reach of audiences, which is what I'm doing.
Have you made a video on how to exit?
On this? Not exactly.
That's great. I mean, that was really good advice. I think it's for people who are strictly getting in because they see an opportunity from a financial standpoint, right? Don't put yourself, at that top where the risk is just, really high.
Yeah, it's big.
it could work. You
Yeah.
never know. But what I've seen is people get these cards in their hand and they're like, "Oh, it's cool. I'm going to be a part of Marvel cards. I'm going to buy a Marvel card." Then they get them in the hand and they're like, "Oh man, I really enjoy this. I actually like it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to sell it,
Yeah.
or if I sell it, it's going to be a really big number, and then then you end up holding on to it, and you might miss a window."
Yeah, I completely agree on that. So
Mhm.
so I don't know about you, like what you mentioned, right? For you to sell a Spider-Man card, it's gonna take a lot,
Mhm.
perhaps a bigger Spider-Man card that you get back in return. But if that's from a collector point of view, but if as an investor, you can't really have that kind of attachment
Mhm.
because there are always opportunities for you to invest in something better or to make a better return. So that's usually the goal of what you're doing.
So
So
what
even
I
though I
hear,
like, sorry.
no, what I was just saying, what I heard you say is that selling is actually the beginning of something else, not the end of something.
Correct, correct.
Mhm.
There will be those pieces that you will love and enjoy for the rest of your life. Like for me, it's the Jim Lee autographs, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate to a lot of people, right? But
Right.
it resonates so much to me. So that's like something that I won't sell. But everything else, even though I call myself a Deadpool collector in a way,
Right.
but I don't mind selling it if the right price comes.
Yeah. No. And I want to show you something here. I don't know if you've seen it already, but did you see that I got something from Jim Lee yesterday?
Oh yes, I just saw that video earlier.
Oh, you did.
That's
Here, we'll put it up real
that's
quick because I think let's see. Let's stop sharing this one. And so, tell me about your what it is. I know the set brought you into Jim Lee, obviously.
yep.
Um, but there we go. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Didn't he
nice
do a great job?
sketch. Yeah.
I love it. So for,
Yep.
for those who are just seeing this, there's a video of this. But I sent these books off and with a friend of mine in August, and they just came back from CGC,
Mm,
and Jim Lee sketched Wolverine on my Magneto book, and I'm very thankful that it turned out in the way that it did, and it came back at 9.8. But this Grifter sketch here, man, that is amazing, isn't it?
yes. Yes. I saw that this morning. I was like, whoa. I had to really because I'm not really big on Wildcats, so I really
Hmm.
had to make out who is that character in a way. So then when I saw this grifter, I was like, oh, okay, nice
Yeah,
one.
it's awesome. I
Yep.
was very happy to get those back, and my Wolverine Jim Lee auto is at PSA right now.
Ah, guess what? So is mine.
Oh, do
But
you
I don't
know?
expect a good grade. So I knew from
Okay.
the start that that copy is perhaps going to come back a 6, maybe.
Hmm.
I think. Yeah. So I'm not too bummed by it. I just want something that I could just display up on the shelf or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's for you. That was an investment. That was collecting, right?
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'm optimistic about mine, but here's the truth. I'm terrible at grading. I've never seen a Marvel card that I didn't think looked good. So it's,
Right.
for me, they all
Right.
look great. PSA 10 all the way.
It's okay to be optimistic, and
Yeah,
then be disappointed later. It's just a flash for a while, and then
yeah.
life goes on after that.
Well, it's so funny because the first PSA graded cards I ever got back were my Marvel masterpieces, and they
Mm.
came back 6, 7, and 7. Those are $300 submissions, right?
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, yeah, it was painful,
Yeah.
but
Well, I can tell you one experience that I had was when I first sent for grading, I was like
mhm,
getting nines and tens. I said, I'm amazing, right? I'm so good
yeah.
at this. And the next three submissions were like six and sevens and eights.
Oh yeah, it's funny how you get yeah. I was humbled right out the gate and realized I have no idea what I'm doing. Now, mind you, I'd already sent like 123 cards that still are not back yet. So I'm horrified what all those are going to look like from a grade standpoint. But with Marvel masterpieces, I'm realizing that 7 actually is about right. Like
Is this 96 or earlier?
96 and 2020.
Right. Okay. I, with 96, I tried buying a couple of pieces. I mean, from eBay. Not a good idea. I don't recommend it to anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Buying raw pieces from eBay. And I think I bought like 10 cards in total, just to have a feel on the condition and just to have a
Mhm.
look to see whether or not I could do anything with this. And 9 out of 10 it's not
They're
fit.
not good, are they?
It's not good, right? So, in fact, the one that I kept behind, which was a Tor,
Mhm.
okay, it's not perfect, but I think it's going to get like a PSA 8, 9 at best, maybe 8, okay.
Mhm.
But like what you said, right, a 96 masterpieces in a 7 or 8, there is premium on top. It's
Yeah,
just how much you pay for the grading fees that's going to make the difference.
it is. So
Yeah.
I went out and bought a 1996 Psylocke, Marvel Masterpiece Psylocke, the base card to a lot of
Yep.
people, at an SGC 9.5.
Okay.
And it's at PSA now.
Ooh. Okay.
So we're going to see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Is that for investment or is that for PC?
I don't know. I'm just having fun, man.
Yeah. But funny thing about SGC though, so I had a Deadpool.
Yes, we're still recording.
Let's make good editing later on.
Oh, I got it. But my my battery died, so
Right.
I literally ran into the house to get. I didn't realize it wasn't plugged in. So,
No worries. No worries.
but you were
What we
saying
saying?
you said you
SGC.
have a Deadpool.
Yeah. So I had a Deadpool SGC, and for display, right, as in for collection, I think SGC slabs looks awesome
Amazing.
for display. They look nice, really nice on the shelf for display. Like I don't like the secondary values if you were to resell, but definitely I like the look of it. Standing upright for sure.
Yeah. So I haven't said much on SGC, but I actually would like to do this with you if that's okay.
Yep.
So there's a really good chance that my $23,000 purchase of the red PMG Spider-Man from 2013 is the highest SGC Marvel card sale. Would you agree?
Perhaps perhaps so. Yeah, I would think
Yeah,
so.
it's up
Yeah.
there. If it's not
Yeah.
the
That's
highest,
for sure. Yeah.
I don't know of another one that's public personally.
Yep.
But so I obviously will buy an SGC slab, right?
Right.
I think I paid $815 for the Psylocke at a
Okay.
9.5. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that SGC has a strong place in the hobby. I think they meet a real need in that there are people who want to be able to submit a card and get it back in a short period of time to be able to flip it.
Yeah.
I think that's great, right? I
Yeah.
think they're clearly number two now in a lot of ways for Marvel cards above
Mm-hmm.
BGS, primarily because of customer service and turn time from
Right.
BGS for Marvel
Right.
cards.
Right.
Even though right now BGS actually has the record of the 132 cell.
Right.
And I think for those special rare cards that you're going to hold for a while, you want them in a PSA slab.
Yeah, for sure. I think for sports, right? So PSA is still top, obviously, but there is have been a lot of pushback on SGC slabs in terms of value. So even though you get the slabs back faster, maybe cheaper grading fees and whatnot, it's still not the go-to
Mm-hmm.
ones for a lot of people for reselling, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for Marvel, it's still new because grading overall is still very new for Marvel. So
Mm-hmm.
we are taking some lead from the sports world, saying that PSA is the best because of their population report,
Mm-hmm.
and we assume that the quality of grading is the best compared to the rest. Everybody says that they're good, but
Yeah.
PSA, reputation wise and whatnot. But because grading is still new from the Marvel perspective, so it's still open to interpretation. Like SGC can easily be the one,
Mm-hmm.
it easily could be because, like I said, Marvel cards look nice in a black frame.
They do. All
Really
that
look
color.
in a Yes, they really look nice in a black frame. And if that counts towards premium, then
Yeah.
that's a game changer.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, look, I looked at the red Spidey in that black slab and I said, hey, I'm willing to let go of a lot of money, right? And
Yeah,
so I agree with you that aesthetically it's fantastic. The
yeah,
quality of the slab feels good. And here's the other part of it. As Marvel cards started to take its first leap, PSA shut down basically. I mean, I know you can
mm,
still spit, but not in a financially beneficial way for Marvel cards.
mm,
SGC took that place. And so you now have almost a year of Marvel card investors and some collectors getting familiar and liking SGC. And so that's kind of baked itself into number two. The big unknown is CGC.
Right.
And when CGC enters the marketplace, and I would believe that it will, it's going to be really interesting to see how Marvel card collectors at first respond,
Mm.
how comic book collectors move into Marvel cards,
Yep.
and then to see how investors react to CGC.
Yeah, I had a guy who just DM me yesterday, and he's a comic book collector just entering the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me again, in general, what are my thoughts about Marvel cards per se, and then I just shared with him some of my information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also, I of course we didn't discuss this, but I think that he's also on the same track as what you just mentioned, about grading cards with CGC,
Mm-hmm.
whereby I got a matching card to the book. So that's what a lot of people are thinking. And comics, it's a huge market there, right? So to have matching cards, that's going to create a lot of demand. Okay, but the downside is it's going to be very specific, right? Certain cards
Mm-hmm.
that's cover matching and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be an entire market as a whole. It's going to be very niche towards that direction.
I think, and this is, you and I are way forward talking right now, nothing's, but I think one of the things that could be the difference maker, and I'll use Josh Luber's word, it's going to be the friction that is or isn't there from the collector to the grader, or from when the collector receives the card or opens the card, and how it gets to the grader.
Mm.
And whoever creates the smoothest, fastest possible path could end up being the winner for that reason, because grading is subjective.
Yes.
And to say that this is the best grader is, so full disclosure, real estate appraiser for 7 years, certified real estate appraiser for 14 years, ran my own company, ran the appraisal department for $1 billion bank. So numbers is a thing, right? And depending on who you were talking to, I realized something. Liars figure and figures lie.
Mm.
Liars
Right.
figure and figures
Right.
lie. And you can make numbers say just about anything you want it to say.
Right.
Right. And from a great, like, who's the best grader standpoint, there's all the arguments, right? Well, I look at these numbers and I put more emphasis on them, therefore I'm right. Or I look at these numbers and I put more emphasis and I'm right. So, but grading is subjective, period.
Correct.
So it's going to be something else, I think, that determines. And I think that frictionless aspect is going to be a big part of it.
Right. I agree, but it's going to be one of it, and it's going to be a big part. I do agree. It comes down to all the other factors as well, right? Pricing,
Mm-hmm.
eye appeal. I think for Marvel, eye appeal is so important. I talk about this many times in all my videos. It's so different from sports, right? Sports is just a photo.
Mm-hmm.
You like the photo, you don't like the photo. That's fine. But for art, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
And putting it slab, paying money to get slab, you got to put in a slab that you like to see and not disregard the value of what's worth in the
This is
case.
proven with comic book slabs. I mean, all those up here are CGC. The reason
Yep.
there was 2 CBCS books up there,
Okay.
which is a parent company is Beckett. They didn't look good.
Yeah.
One of them was New Mutants 98, signed
Okay.
by Rob Liefeld, sold it.
Yep.
The second was, and it was a 9.8. The second was Into the Spider-Verse, Edge of the Spider-Verse 2, First Spider-Gwen, signed by all 3 artists and creators, 9.8. I sold it too because the slab, I just could
Just
not
didn't look
get.
nice.
No, I
The
didn't
the
like it.
font's a bit weird though. I had a look at it. The font's just
Like,
it just
come on.
doesn't strike out. And I like CGC with that huge numbering at the
Mhm.
corner, right? It just pop there, right there for you.
It's the perfect font for a
Yeah.
9.8.
Correct.
It is, and that's one thing I'm interested about. If CGC starts to grade, um, they'll probably keep the same font that they have for Pokemon and TCG, but will they do 9.8? Because right now it's 9.5, right?
Yeah. A lot of people are asking that question, right? It's gonna look very odd that I'm gonna match my 9.8 book to my 9.5 card. So is still 9.5 undergraded, or that kind of thing. So it's tough. It's tough. I'm pretty sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, 9.8 is a brand for
Right.
CGC, and I think they need
Exactly.
to capitalize on that brand and just say, hey, our 10's a 9.8,
Right.
and you do have a chance for a 10, but it's it ought to be almost as impossible as it is for a comic book.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, man, we're at an hour. I've had a blast.
Cool. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it goes by fast. You did so good, man. First time live here on camera. You were just absolutely a natural.
No, I love talking about investing in cards for some reason. So that's the main reason I do the videos, right? It's not to point people in a different direction.
Mhm.
I just throwing out the thoughts on the table, and let people figure it out. You like it, accept it, whatever. It's fine. But I just love talking about cards.
Mhm.
That's why the card boss is not because I'm the boss of cards. It's just I just love having cards in front of me.
Well, look, that name wouldn't fit a lot of people, and then
Right.
it wouldn't be becoming of a lot of people. But you come from a place of value. You seem to really care about the person, not just the cart. And the information you give is thoughtful and not just off the cuff from baseless information. And I think people are taking notice, and that's why the name fits and it sticks. And I don't see that changing.
Thanks for that.
Well, it's an honor to be able to have you on my channel, to be able to do the face to face for the first time. I hope it's not the last time.
Yeah, for sure. It was a blast. We should do more in the future.
Let's plan it. I'd love that. And
Cool.
Pangming, right? Did I say it?
Yeah, you got it right.
Perfect. You know what we say on the channel when we tell people bye? We say, have a
Marvelous day.
marvelous day. Thanks, man.
Right. Cool. Thanks and cheers.